What's up, beauties? Lisa May here. Hope y'all are having a fabulous Monday, a motivated Monday, and a maverick Monday. Today, I just wanted to come to you and tell you about this book that I just recently read, Mighty Be Our Powers by Leymah Gbowee. Leymah Gbowee is a Liberian peace activist. I actually learned about Leymah Gbowee through Spike Lee when he was promoting his film Chirac. I'm not sure if you remember that film, but it came out a few years ago. And the premise of it was that women using a sex strike to bring about peace to Chicago. He received a lot of criticism for that because people were saying that it was outlandish and absurd, that that wouldn't really work. It was naive to think that. And he actually cited Leymah Gbowee in her work in defense of that criticism. So that's how I learned about Leymah Gbowee. And basically the book is a memoir that tells in great detail her journey of how the war broke out, how it affected her and her community, and how through sisterhood and prayer and even sex, she was able to bring a nation at war peace to them and end the Civil War. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very informative, and I thought it was very inspiring. The fact that she endured so much and she was reduced to such low levels of existence and expectations, and she really rose above that. And the thing that really helped her to rise above that was her faith, and not just her faith, but her relationship with God. You know, one of the things that I took away, I think, 3 overall things from the book. One of which is to keep God first and to keep God involved in your life. And Leymah really did that. She really kept God first. Even when she was in her dark time, you know, she would pray and ask God to give me a scripture or minister to me in some way, really help me out of this dark place. And he ended up giving her a scripture. I believe it was, hold on a second, let's see. Isaiah 54. For the Lord has called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit. O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest and not comforted. Behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors and lay thy foundations with sapphires. So she constantly, you know, she stood on that promise. She constantly thought back to that. She constantly read that scripture. And that's what was able to give her the courage, along with the encouragement and the instruction that she was receiving from people around her to keep going. So yeah, so that was the other thing that I took from the book, is to keep going. When you set out to do something and you have a desire to do something, keep doing it, to never give up that hope, to keep going in your endeavors and in your pursuits, and keep going with your faith. And then the other thing was that I took away from the book was to keep good company. I don't think Leymah would be where she is today if it were not for the people that she crossed paths with during her journey. 3 people in particular who really had a significant impact on her life was Tunde, who was a boyfriend of hers. After she got out of her relationship with Daniel, met Tunde. Tunde was someone that she had previously worked for. So she went to him basically saying like, hey, I kind of need a job, can you help me out? And they formed a relationship, a really good relationship, because whereas Daniel had really, you know, driven her into the ground and just driven her to low levels of herself and really drove down her self-esteem, Tunde really helped to encourage her and build her back up. You know, he would encourage her, he would ask her her thoughts and her opinions, and he made her feel like they were valuable, whereas her husband, Daniel, did not do that. So I think that really started to build back her confidence, and he encouraged her to, you know, to read and to go to school. You know, she took heed to that. She did that. And so one of the places she ended up working, I believe it was, her getting in school was contingent on her volunteering for a certain organization. So through her parents and the church, she was able to get a job, I believe, at the Lutheran church. And there she met a man, BB. And so BB was her boss, and BB was another person who encouraged her. But not only did BB encourage her, he really commanded her almost. He told her, he clearly saw potential in her. So he really pulled out that potential from her, and he commanded her to become academically fit, to do the reading, to ask important questions. You know, he always gave her reading assignments, newspaper articles, and told her to read certain books, and really pushed her to answer certain questions of like why had the war breaking out, how had it affected the people, what caused it, how had the elites treated the indigenous people, and you know, who had the power and what were they doing with it. He was really almost like a drill sergeant on her, but not in like, you know, a bad way, whereas he was trying to control her. He just saw her potential, and she really had that potential within herself, because once she realized, and I think that I can relate to Leymah in this, once she realized that she did not know something or have an understanding of something, she became hungry to find out more. So it was a very good relationship. So that was another person who, you know, pushed her and helped her get to the next level. And then finally, you know, through her work with him, she ended up meeting a woman, Leymah Gbowee, who was a Nigerian lawyer. And just to kind of like let you know, I guess I should give you a little bit, like, I don't want to tell you the whole story, because if you read the book, like, I want you, you know, like, I want you to be interested the way I was, and discover get the excitement of discovering the story the way that I did. So I don't want to tell you too much. But basically the work that she did was she started off in social work. So she was helping like the child soldiers and the people who had been affected by the war. She was helping them almost in like a, I guess like a therapeutic kind of way. She was getting them to talk about their experiences. And once they were able to kind of release that pain, then she, you know, worked with them to integrate them back into society. So that was the work she did. So in the course of her doing that work, she ended up meeting Leymah Gbowee, who, like I said, was a Nigerian lawyer. And Leymah says that, you know, she was a thinker, she was a visionary. Of course, I love that. Like, yes, I want a Leymah in my life. But, you know, she says that Leymah really pushed her. And Leymah had this idea of, because up until that point, they were working with men, obviously. You know, Tunde and Bibi, they were men. So these organizations that were helping these people were pretty much ran by men. But Leymah, being the thinker and the visionary, she had a vision of women getting more involved in the peacekeeping efforts and conflict resolution, and being a part of that political process. Because as everyone began to see that women were the most affected by the war and the fighting and the outbreak, because it was their husbands being killed, it was their children being killed, it was them being raped, it was their daughters being raped, their sons being recruited into the war. So women were really affected by this. So Leymah thought that these women should really be involved in the process. And so when her and Leymah linked up, of course, I mean, at that point it was just like destiny, I guess destiny meeting destiny, and things just really started to take off at that point. And again, like I said, how Leymah was such a hungry person, she, you know, she told her, how can I help? I want to be involved. I really like this. And so when Leymah saw that dedication in her, she took it upon herself to basically train her and to mentor her and to really bring her under her wing. And so whenever she would go out and, you know, go to conferences and speak and things like that, she would bring Leymah with her. And then eventually she started pushing off the responsibility to Leymah. And I hope that doesn't, like, don't take that in a negative way, like she was putting off her work on her. She was basically giving Leymah these opportunities. And of course, you know, Leymah was nervous, but she rose to the occasion. She stepped up and she did it. And the more she did it, she saw, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I think that I am meant to do. This is what I am passionate about. Like, she really found her place in that community. And as a result, Leymah ended up asking her to, I believe, launch the campaign. I believe it was like in Accra. They wanted to bring that organization to Accra, if I'm not mistaken, Accra, Ghana. And so she spearheaded that. And so she was doing that, and she was working with the trauma healing, rehabilitation, I don't know, the THARP. She started working with the THARP. When you read the book, you'll know what the THARP is, but it's like the trauma healing reconciliation program. Maybe that's what it was. But she was doing that, and she was doing that, and she was also working with the new movement, the WhipNet, the female version of the program that Leymah had launched. And as a result of her working with Leymah also pushed her. Leymah would tell her, you're only using, 50% of your brain. You're only using 50% of your potential. Don't be naive. Go deeper. So she really had these people, Tunde, Bibi, and Leymah, who were really pushing her. And she rose to the occasion. And then eventually she ended up having a dream one night where God told her to gather the women and pray. And I didn't pick this up in the book, but I picked it up through one of the videos I watched after reading the book. She went to Bibi because Bibi was also a pastor. I think I did say that he was, I guess, the head of the Lutheran church, who also worked with the organization to help people in the community. So she went to him, she told him about the dream, and she was just telling him, well, you, you bring this up in a sermon or whatever and tell the people to pray. And Bibi was like, no, that's not what was the quote? The tail bearer is also the tail driver. Something to that effect. But basically, Bibi was like, no, the dream was given to you. You have to carry it out. And so that's what she did. And as a result of that dream, gathering the people to pray under the direction and the tutelage of Leymah, she was able to successfully gather the women, and they did pray. And one of the most significant things that Leymah says, even to this day, that she doesn't think happens often, and what really contributed to the success of their movement, is that they were able to get Christian women and Muslim women together to fight for the same cause. Because one of the workshops they had, I believe it was called Shedding of the Weight, if I'm not mistaken. And basically the women would just tell their story of what they had gone through. And of course, many of the women had gone through similar things. And one of the things she said, a bullet doesn't know a Christian from a Muslim. So she said, in this moment, we're no longer Christian or Muslim or doctor or lawyer or social worker or whatever. At this point, we are women, and we are women who want peace because we are tired of war. And that right there is what really laid that foundation that just completely took off and grew from there. So I think I'll stop right there. I don't want to tell you too much and give away too much of the story. I really would encourage you to, read the book, or at least look her up. She's given a TED Talk on her work, and she has like a lot of she's spoken at a lot of places. So there's a lot of things on YouTube that you can find on her where she's given speeches and things like that. So I would really encourage you to look her up and check her out. Especially if you aspire to be a thinking beauty. I think Leymah Gbowee is the epitome of a thinking beauty. So anyway, that's what the book was about. I hope I did some kind of justice to that. Hopefully you feel inspired to go read it and to check it out, because I really do think it's a really good story. Really good story, especially as far as showing women how important it is for us to stick together, and how we can do, great and mighty and significant things if we work together. So yes, that was the book, Mighty Be Our Powers by Leymah Gbowee. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. If you have read it, leave me some comments below and let me know what you thought of the book. All right, until next time, Lisa May here saying peace, love, and blessings.